Oh, hey there. Before we dive into today's discussion, I wanted to talk about a fun upcoming opportunity here on the podcast. We will be doing a special episode in December, revolving around vetting, evaluating, and picking partners for your agency, as well as what the partner process looks like for HawkSoft. On this episode, members of the HUG Solution Partner Working Group will be joining us and will be eager to offer their own insight. Here's where you come in. What questions do you have for experienced agency owners about partners? Such as, what do they look for in a partner? What processes do they put in place with a partner? If you have questions for our guests, as well as any about HawkSoft's partner program as a whole, submit your questions by emailing them to marketing@hawksoft.com. That's marketing@hawksoft.com. We look forward to seeing your questions and answering them in December. Thank you. Enjoy the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance Perspectives Podcast. This is part 2 of our series on Archway. If you missed part 1, please go back and give it a listen. You'll find a full episode on Brad and Archway Computer. For today's episode, we are talking with Kevin Panter, president and owner of Kevin Panter Insurance. Kevin has operated his agency in Blue Ridge, Georgia for over 31 years. That's amazing to me. Something that is equally amazing to me personally, but also a slight, really weird coincidence, is that Kevin is a volunteer firefighter and EMT. Now, I say this is odd because my father, Kevin, is a career firefighter who recently retired the second time to start as a volunteer firefighter in the district he grew up in. He is also an EMT. I stalk all of our guests. Listeners know this. And when I saw that, I was just like, this is the curse.
I am impressed, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah. I honestly could talk to you for hours about firefighting. While it was never a career my father ever recommended for any of his children, it is still something that I have a deep interest in. I can sense a podcast producer reaching for the mute button right now, though. So we'll go to the main event. I do want to give a quick little note. HawkSoft is a family company, and we attract very similar customers. Kevin is calling in from his car today because he was at a golf tournament for your daughter, I believe.
Correct. Yeah, over in South Carolina. I am sitting here 3.5 hours away from home doing this podcast because I hope that it helps someone. You know, that's the point of it.
I sincerely appreciate that, and we always say family comes first, and so this is we appreciate you finding a way to work us in with that obligation, and I'll make sure that we get these questions out and get you on your way so you can take the rest of that 3-hour journey home.
Just in this nice rainstorm, I'm enjoying it.
Perfect. So
if we see Kevin's car start to twirl and the landscape twirl, we're gonna.
Me and Dorothy will be in Kansas.
So Kevin Panter Insurance uses MyArchway and Archway Computers as their managed service provider for IT. We're going to dive into some customer questions with Kevin. We like to start out by getting an understanding of the agencies we're talking to, so that people who listen to this can say like, oh, hey, I'm like that agency, or maybe we do things a little differently. Kevin, I'd love for you to tell us about your agency. How long have you been in business? How many people work there? Do you specialize in any particular line of business? Those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been in the business about 33 years. I actually started while I was in college. My goal was to be a firefighter. It's kind of funny you mentioned that. Was to be a firefighter. I got talked into going to college. And while I was in college, I got talked into the insurance business. So, but I am still a firefighter and EMT, and that's a first love because I love helping people. And that goes hand in hand with insurance. It truly does. I've been in, like I said, 33 years. I was a former captive agent with a company out of Georgia called, who's no longer really in business. They were acquired, but a company called Cotton States Insurance. I was very successful with them. But, there was just something about working for that captive company. I could not do everything for my customers. There was limited product needs. And thus, that's why basically in 2006, I made the decision to leave and become an independent agent. Through a lot of hard work and support from folks, left and started over again. I've built two agencies in my lifetime, but I am in, I'm a real agent. I'm in small town Blue Ridge, Georgia. Blue Ridge, Georgia, if you look it up on the map, it didn't even used to be on the map till about 10 years ago. Now we're a little quaint tourist town, but, I'm my whole county. The whole county is only 27,000. My city that I live in is the largest city, is about 3,000. So I'm just a regular guy, a regular agency. But, this where it ties in with MyArchway. I have 16 employees now. Two of those are virtual employees overseas. And I had to have that technology to be able to compete in today's world. What we've just coming out of COVID and everything there, the job market was tough. I was needing more resources and people, and thus, wound up with a couple of virtual employees, which segued great with MyArchway. Helps us coordinate that, and I feel very confident with the security that I get to them, because I've got all my data. All my data is at risk. I've got data in Blue Ridge, Georgia. I've got data in HawkSoft. I have data in the Philippines within my, and I've got remote workers here in the state of Georgia. But, I'm also a founding partner of a network group, Southeastern Network Agencies. Many of my many of the members in there are HawkSoft users. A few of those have now become MyArchway users, and more of them. They rely on me, kind of like I relied on HawkSoft. They rely on me to know if Kevin's using them, they know how hard I am. Kevin's using them. They're pretty good people.
So it sounds like because of, it sounds like you're a classic type of HawkSoft agency, a Main Street America agency. You're probably doing both personal lines, commercial lines.
We are. We do personal lines and commercial lines and life and health.
Fantastic.
We do a lot of life insurance and health insurance as well. And that is one thing, that HawkSoft, their management system has grown into, into the life side. Y'all really advanced that. And thank you, Paul Hawkins and Kenny and Paul and everyone else there, and Sean for getting that. But
totally.
But yeah, I am primarily, about 60% of my business is personal lines, and about 30% is commercial lines, and 10% life and health.
Okay, excellent. So then, what were you looking for when you first encountered Archway?
I was looking for an IT provider. The thing that keeps agents up at night is in today's world is cyber. We've just recently, in the last couple of days, heard of another large chain getting. And my scare is if they can get hacked, I can get hacked. And I have got all my friends, all my family, small town Blue Ridge, small town USA customers. If I'm not doing everything I can to protect their data, then I fail my customers. And my customers are my lifeblood. So I needed to be with a very reputable IT provider. And I did my research before. I talked with, I come into Brad by way of kind of Steve Anderson, and met Brad at a conference. It was we didn't get married on the first date by no means. We dated there for a while, checked him out, talked to a lot of references, and I was with a previous IT provider who, Kenny, you're probably familiar with, and they had not really kept up to date with the IT concerns that I felt like was most important. And as my agency grows, I needed someone that grow with me, and that's what I found Archway. And he's got people smarter than him. That's what I like about. Much smarter than him, man. And that's the same. I've got people much smarter than me back in my agency. I've got good people. HawkSoft is good. Paul's a good person, but he's got smart people like you, Kenny, and Paul, and all work.
No, just to quote Brad from part one, I just end up being the face sometimes. But I think Brad is
pretty face.
Oh, thanks. Oh, sorry, I did forget that. I think it's important to surround yourself with people that can help you grow. And honestly, I've had conversations with Brad before where he's admitted that he brings in experts. And so that sounds like that's what you did at your agency, is you needed an expert in IT, and so you brought them in.
Absolutely. When you try to do it yourself, and I know a lot of agencies that do that. Actually, the guy referred me to HawkSoft still tries to do some of that IT in-house. And I tell him every time how crazy he is.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to be, if we're going to take care of our customers, we've got to put that number one and know that we've done that. I've got to focus on taking care of their needs, selling insurance. I don't need to worry about IT.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I could just add
Please.
to that, I mean, I mentioned in the last episode that I had a wildfire burn down my home, and thank God I had an independent agent
Mm-hmm.
who was there for me, right? Um, I could have, I know a lot about insurance. I could have went through direct writer, et cetera, and done it that way. And meanwhile, my neighbors were all fighting with their insurance,
Mm-hmm.
and my insurance agent took care of me. And so I outsourced my insurance to an independent agent. I really, I just see it as total folly and penny saved, pound foolish when an insurance agency tries to wing it
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to tech and security.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, so let's maybe dive into a bit about what Archway does for Kevin Panter Insurance Agency. Um, Kevin, I'm super curious. What can your agency do now with Archway that you couldn't do before?
Oh, what they've enabled me to do is one, I've got remote employees. Meeting up with MyArchway come at the same time, kind of as COVID. We were coming out of that
Mm-hmm.
to have remote employees, and just to attract that talent. I've got employees that's working, remotely in home, 2 hours away. I've got them 20 something hours away, overseas. And so they've, little agent in Blue Ridge, Georgia, MyArchway has made me able to compete with big agent in Atlanta, Georgia, or Los Angeles, California.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they've enabled me to do. And technology wise, that's what's good about that. I don't try to be smart in technology. I keep my ear to it. But
Mm-hmm.
when I'm needing to do something, I can call his staff. It was kind of funny, right. And Brad may not even know this, but right as we'd kind of made a switch over to them, had a couple of issues. I was needing to try to get logged in, and I got to use his after hours service to get me back up and going. I was actually out on a little vacation camping, and I still needed to be working, had some struggles. And here's what was unique, and this is, Brad, you don't even know this, but the tech that was helping me, he got off work. It was like 5 o'clock. He was supposed to have been off, and I was still not connected. He and I were troubleshooting some stuff, and he stayed right on. I said, look, if we need to come back and revisit this tomorrow, and his whole words was, no, if we've got to get you going, you need to be working. So it wasn't about just punching that clock and him leaving. He stayed there when we got up and back going, and I appreciated that. It's not, as Brad just said a minute ago, it's not about the pennies and the dollars. We all have to make a comfortable living, but
Yeah,
his staff recognized that and stayed there and helped me get up and going.
that's fantastic. Well, yeah, I really can always appreciate when people put service over self. I think a lot of business owners will recognize that saying, and um, I've always been impressed with the scope of services that Archway can help facilitate folks get connected to. I've always had a great time working with Brad and his staff. So fair is fair. In part one, we let Brad talk about his maybe
Oh
the
God.
faults he sees in the independent insurance space. Respectfully, he didn't really take too many shots at agents. He aimed more at technology providers. Who does that on this call? But it was a good conversation. So to help facilitate the two-way flow of honest feedback, Kevin, I'd love to ask you, what is one thing that you would change about Archway if you could?
It would be free. Actually, I wouldn't have to pay anything for it. No, outside. I will have to say, in comparison, I've only dealt with about two other IT providers,
Mm-hmm.
and MyArchway checks all the boxes for me now. I really think, the good thing of it is, and if I have a crisis, he's got a toll-free number, and that's the people who need help. It's kind of like my agency. Some people call and they want to talk to me, but I'm really not the person that can help them. Brad's really not the person that can help them. But at the end of the day, I do know if I have an issue, I can talk to Brad Rubin. Just the same as I can call HawkSoft if I need to and talk to Paul Hawkins or Sean Hawkins. We, as mamas and daddies, and I grew up in small country, they tell you, don't get too big for your britches. None of us need to get too big for our britches. We're all in this together, and that's why I do like it. If there was something I didn't like about MyArchway, Brad would have known it before today. And this has not been rehearsed, and I've still not even gotten a free drink out of it, but I'm giving him good accolades out.
So that's the thing. You would want free drinks from your IT vendor. That's your complaint.
Maybe one. Long as they're not sold out of vodka, but anyway. No,
See,
but
this
I like.
Is why...
I like to have. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go.
I like to have trust in the people that I employ to help protect my agency. That they got is skin in the game too. That if I have a problem, they've got a problem. It's not, if I would have been talking to that tech that day, and he left me at 5 o'clock when I needed help, and although I would have respected him doing that, maybe have someone else, he didn't leave me. He said, "Nope, we need to get you up and going," and and that's the extra things that you look for in a. Those are the things that I've known for 10 plus years with HawkSoft, from that standpoint, and the same that I'm learning with MyArchway.
Yeah, and I apologize to Brad, because normally I'm supposed to give a disclaimer to not say price, because everyone's going to say price, but we rolled with that really well. What I was going to say is, actually, now that thought has flown away from me, and I'm making my editor's life a little harder. But I appreciate that perspective, because I think that oftentimes my wife in her previous role worked in supporting facilities for a very large hospital, and people would just not report issues. Light would be out, door handle would be broken, and they wouldn't report it. And I've walked through this hospital a number of times with my wife, and Dana will see something that is not right. A tile's misplaced, or a soap dispenser is empty, and she will just get on the phone and call it into facilities and get it addressed. And I appreciate, Kevin, that you have that perspective that, hey, if something's wrong, I'm not going to sit on it. I'm just going to talk to my providers. I'm going to talk to HawkSoft. I'm going to talk to Brad. I think that's something that people should feel more comfortable about, because you're not, as an agent, you're not running a charity providing money to IT professionals and software companies. You pay us for a service.
Yeah. Let me add one more thing. I would just add, and this is what I like about MyArchway, and that's why I do business with them. Insurance agents have to have insurance. And so I'm a purchaser of cyber insurance, a very large limit of cyber insurance, because I do realize, although I have faith in MyArchway, things can happen. Nobody's perfect. We could make a mistake in our agency that they've showed us how not to do, but we're only as good as our weakest link. But, in filling out my application for my cyber insurance, there's some of these questions that it take a computer genius to understand those. Well, instead of me trying to fake it till I make it, I pick up the phone, called, Sue Ann, got on the phone, and made sure that I was answering the questions correctly. We weren't just answering the question to give them an answer so I could get my cyber insurance rated. She was making sure that I was doing those things. We were answering those applications correctly, because if I would have answered it incorrectly, had a claim, the insurance company may not have covered me if I, and that's what I had faith in them. And those are the little extra things that you look for in a company that's going to help you.
Absolutely. This has been a rather positive answer to that question, which is good. It's good. It's great. We, in part one, Brad alluded to the fact that HawkSoft's partnership program, it's a bit of an uphill climb. Admittedly, we don't make it easy. But that's because we have to find companies that our customers will trust, because when we say someone's a partner, there's a lot of weight behind that. And so I do appreciate the fact that and this is, I feel like I'm self-aggrandizing or patting myself on the back, but we did good. And I want to give a shout out. A consultant that we work with, an individual named Matt Slade, introduced me to Brad and MyArchway. So we didn't just pluck Brad out of North Hollywood. It was a good
West Hollywood.
recommendation, and it's proved to be a very good relationship. West Hollywood, right?
Yes.
Okay, my bad.
They're all crazy, but don't let him kid.
Yeah. So maybe we'll explore this positivity a little bit deeper, and I would love, Kevin, if you could describe describe the value that Archway brings to your agency. What are those tangible things, processes, workflows? What benefits are they bringing to your agency?
Well, they brought in, and again, this is completely unrehearsed. We took these questions. I haven't really thought to them, but I, what they have provided that I know when my employees leave at 5 o'clock in the evenings, many of them are having to log back on at home. They're having, if we have a bad claim event, they're working remotely. I know that not just the issues at my office are protected. Where my employees work at, they're protected, and because they're my IT spot, we have a bad storm. Maybe the employees can't come into the work. I know that I can get up and going, and I've had those things. Previous IT vendors, we were down one time. We were down 3 or 4 days, and you're gonna have, if everybody thinks that IT is perfect, they're wrong. But it's not uncommon to come in, with 16 employees, and once or twice a week, somebody has an issue. They pick up the phone, they get it solved, and my employees back to work. I don't need them to keep calling back and forth. When we call, we get someone. We don't have to wait an hour for someone to come into work, somebody to get back in. So that's been the saving grace. I've put IT on their shoulders, and I'm riding on another horse to protect my clients.
Absolutely. Sounds like they have your back.
I've got big shoulders here. I've been working out. I don't know if you can tell. That would be another Hannah.
I literally, in my head, I was just like, somewhere Hannah just, Brad's daughter, who works in the company in the marketing, somewhere Hannah just like involuntarily just rolled her eyes, and she has no idea why.
It doesn't know why.
Yeah. Me and Hannah is going to have to meet and talk.
This has been a fantastic conversation, and I cannot express greater gratitude to Kevin for taking time out of your busy schedule. Blue Ridge might be a small town, but that doesn't mean it has small risks to protect. And I know that you do a lot to protect your community. I know as a volunteer firefighter, you often put yourself in harm's way, and so I really appreciate your time. Brad, you're in California. You're pretty set. So I don't need to send any gratitude your way, but sincerely, I am actually very thankful for your time. I know that you run a large organization, a large business, and you are pulled in many different directions. So I'm grateful that you took time to talk to us today and help our listeners understand your company better, and Kevin helped them understand how MyArchway might help their agencies handle their IT needs. Thank you all so much for.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Kenny. Seriously, and Kevin, yes, thank you so much. Agents like you make us better, because you always say I'm a really demanding agency, et cetera, and that's great. And you told me that when we met, and you signed up for services, and I'm like, that's great. That's how we get better. Is agents that care and will give us honest, good feedback.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, I want to thank both of y'all. I want to thank y'all, for asking me to be a part of it. A little small hometown agent in North Georgia, but it's an honor to be there. I truly trust in HawkSoft and MyArchway as well. Two really good partners that I don't know where I would be in my agency without those. So I appreciate the fine job that both of y'all do to help protect my agency, and if you're protecting my agency, you're protecting my clients. And I am the guy in the small town that likes to everybody to like. So y'all help me do that.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you all so much. Thank you for watching today's episode. Click the video's description below to learn more about our guests and to view the latest podcast episode, as well as other content from HawkSoft. We appreciate you watching and hope you join us next time on the Insurance Perspectives Podcast.